Here we go. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's issue of the Neon Nerds podcast, where the talk is as classy as that leather jacket on Superboy. And so this week's theme is a doubleheader, as promised. First part, we're going to be talking about the 10 things that the people hate about the 90s comics, and we're about to debunk it.
Yep.
And say, F you. And then the second half, we're going to talk about the death of Superman, which before we started recording live, we were already talking about it and loving the characters, the 4 characters of the reign of the Superman, because the issue's only a few issues long.
It's only 7.
Yeah.
It's actually on the back of the Death Superman.
Yeah, look how short that was.
Yeah.
That's how great. And don't worry, we will be talking about Booster Gold and Blue Beetle.
Oh, yeah.
The 2 MVPs of the Death of the Superman storyline. But we're going to get business out of the way first. We now have a YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Neon Nerds Podcast, and we have a channel there. So please subscribe, comment, give us a thumbs up. It's where we're going to be hosting our past episodes. We know that we talk a lot about comic books and certain issues and certain images and advertisements. So when you go when you go to YouTube, you search our podcast, Neon Nerds Podcast on YouTube. You can look at those past episodes, and they're going to be videos, which are just simply going to be our audio tracks. And when we talk about something, I'm just going to pop up an image on there. Like the Ben Reilly episode will be coming on YouTube on Wednesday when this issue is released. So today, if you haven't listened to the Ben Reilly one, which has been getting rave reviews, by the way.
Oh, I know. I heard people have been telling me, my friend listened to it and he was cracking up on the train. So we're making people look crazy in public.
And getting messages on Facebook.
Yeah.
Which we like. When they're like, which we talked about Iron Man, which is good because they said, even though I'm a fan of Iron Man, I like your show. So we kind of dissed the shit out of Iron Man.
All the Iron Man fans are like, what'd they say?
What did they say?
Let me go back and listen to all of their Ben Reilly love just to hear us say that we're going to kill Iron Man in our Spider-Man reboot.
Either way. But we because we had an Iron Man fan message us, I'm going to give one compliment to Iron Man.
Okay.
He had the best guitar solo in a Saturday morning cartoon in the 90s.
I'll give a compliment. Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince played War Machine in the Saturday morning cartoon. So I like that.
Do you know he was born on November 27th, my birthday?
Iron Man was?
No.
Oh, Uncle Phil?
Yeah. Uncle Phil.
This is like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
And we just celebrated Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I know that I discovered I'm getting old. I went to bed at 10:30. I couldn't stay up for the final football game. I ate way too much, and I was like, it's 10:30. I'm getting tired. So I went to bed. That was my exciting Thanksgiving. I couldn't even eat the pumpkin pie that I had to bake. I had to go to bed. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Speaking of celebrations, our own Phil just celebrated a birthday too. So happy birthday to you.
Thank you. I had an awesome Gambit cookie cake.
But the hair was down.
Yeah, I know, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. When you get Gambit on your cake.
No, I know you like Gambit. You like hair, gravity-defying hair.
Yes, that is. I like when it's up.
Yeah.
And it's just there, like it's supposed to be down, like it was on my cake.
It's supposed to be down.
Well, the hair is down on my cake, but it's supposed to be up.
Okay.
And you're not supposed to know how it stays up.
That's the kind of game we like. We don't like apologists.
Yeah,
who are like, it's down.
But still, it's a cookie cake.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't a picture of Gambit, mind you. It was made out of icing.
Yeah.
Like they had to take the tube and draw that out. Yeah. So. Shout out to Great American Cookies and the
it definitely was an awesome cake. I apologize if I'm coming off as harsh on the cake. because especially Gambit really hasn't been in the limelight for like 20 years, 10 years, 15 years.
15 years.
So for them to be like, oh, Gambit,
we'll do it.
Do you think they have pink icing?
Well, that's the thing. Funny story. When I went to pick up the cake, my mom and I went to pick up the cake.
Yeah.
And she's like, for future reference, we can't do this anymore. And she looks up. She's like, it's way too detailed. And we don't have pink icing. We had to make the color icing. They had to mix the red icing with the white icing to get the pink.
Above and beyond.
Yes.
That's impressive.
You know, they may say they can't do it anymore, but if they listen to this podcast, they can realize we just gave a shout out.
Now everybody's going to go get Gambit cakes.
Yes. Since this is a 90s comic book podcast, is there a certain character that you're thankful for?
Oh, come on, that's not fair. Each week that we do this podcast, there's a character that the best they've ever been was in the 90s. Like, for instance, Superboy.
Superboy, yes.
Because, I mean, we're going to get into it later, but...
Had the best one of the best costumes.
Current Superboy is such a cop-out. His costume...
It's so lazy. So lazy. And do you know now Superman's wearing that costume?
Yeah.
Just the jeans and the t-shirt.
That costume is like, if you're a cosplayer, right? And you're like, you get your friends, you're like, we should be the Teen Titans guy. Dressing up is stupid. And like, you already have a Robin costume. Like, well, you can be Superboy. You just wear jeans and t-shirt.
Oh, that's so stupid.
But we'll get into it.
This one is we'll talk about it later. But I love this costume for the exact opposite of why I love the Ben Reilly costume. Because Ben Reilly was simplistic. Yeah. This one is this is 90s. It's got boots and it's got like weird yellow lines like on the boots and legs and that leather jacket, which is amazing. I
have this action figure too.
I had the action figure set from the Reign of the Superman.
Yeah.
And he was in it because it came with mullet Superman.
Where he is like his head would go up so you can make him fly. I had him, Superboy. My brother had Steel, and then I think I had like Conduit. He was in that series too.
Yeah. Fuck Conduit.
Yeah.
But I'm always thankful for Gambit, where he taught everyone that real men can wear pink.
Yeah, I guess he kind of did. Yeah.
Yeah, people are wearing pink shirts every now and then. You can thank Gambit for that. So I'm thankful for the one character, Gambit.
I know we're like 7 minutes in, but we're being hosted by Phil over there, and I'm your co-host, Ryan Brady.
Oh, yeah.
You dropped the ball over there, man.
I know.
You got so excited about Thanksgiving.
I got so excited. Okay. We're your hosts. I'm Phil McNulty.
I'm still Ryan Brady.
There we go.
We did it. All right.
I forgot. You know, it's become a habit.
Look, it's their own fault. This is 3 episodes in. They don't know who we are.
I mean, if you download it, if you go to iTunes and you subscribe and give 5-star reviews, then you'll see the logo says Neon Nerds, the 90s Geek Podcast with Phil McNulty and Ryan Brady. You should know. We're not going anywhere, people.
What kind of freak of nature starts at the 3rd episode anyway?
Right.
Unless they really just want to hear about that Superman.
Well, then, you're not a freak of nature. You're just a DC fan.
But you're going to have to sit through the list first.
Yes. Do you want to start with the list?
If you're done with your monologue.
I'm done.
All right, let's get down to it.
Let's go get down to it.
All right.
Do you want to give a little origin of this list?
Yeah, I'll give you an intro. So a little while ago, I was Googling 90s comics. I just wanted to look at art. I like old covers. And I found this list, and it's called 10 Reasons Why Comics Sucked During the 90s. It's written by Jason Serafino.
Well, you suck, Jason Serafino.
Oh, yeah, we're going to tear you a new one, Jason Serafino.
You're like a 9-year-old at a free comic book day. You don't ask us who's going to get beat down, because it's ultimately going to be you, Jason Serafino.
Who won the fight, Doomsayer Hulk? Man.
Come on, man.
This is from Complex, which is a pop culture magazine, I guess.
Well, fuck you, Complex.
We're going to give you a complex.
All
right, so Phil has not seen this list.
I have not.
Right, and we've never met before. You didn't meet me before the show. Shuffle these cards.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to address each one. So do you want me to tell you what it is and then read what they wrote or what he wrote? Or
Let's start with what he says, and then we'll get first reaction, and then we'll see what he kind of tries to do.
All right. So number 10 is Symbiote Overload.
First off, Maximum Carnage, right? You had Venom, and then you had the more evil spawn of Venom be Carnage, which was the Joker for the Spider-Man universe. No. And then you gave us the video game Maximum Carnage.
Yeah.
And then it came the sequel to the game Maximum Carnage, which was Separation Anxiety.
Yeah, that's in here.
And you want to talk about, oh, well, and now Anti-Venom's hip? I bet you this loser likes Anti-Venom.
He probably does like Anti-Venom.
And he probably likes Flash Thompson Venom.
Oh, Space Knight.
Space Knight. This guy.
Are we back on Venom?
We'll get to space. We'll get to Space Knight. You're gonna have to wait another episode for that. But this loser right here is probably an Anti-Venom fan.
Yeah.
Probably likes that Eddie Brock is gonna get the Toxin symbiote because he's an Eddie Brock fan. If you're an Eddie Brock fan, you love the symbiote overload. What's this loser saying?
He says, during the 90s, no Marvel character was hotter than Venom. Spider-Man's hulking, slobbering villain provided fans with the ultra-violent stories that the web slinger just couldn't duplicate. Yeah. Marvel could smell this cash cow coming a mile away and started to greenlight as many miniseries as possible. So they talk about Venom Lethal Protector.
Lethal Protector had the best cover. First of all, Mark Bagley Venom is the best Venom.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I love Todd McFarlane, my favorite artist. Him and Jim Lee are tied or like 1A and 1B. But no one draws Venom like Mark Bagley. And those were the holofoil covers. Mm-hmm. Those are everything you wanted.
Yeah.
So, this guy.
And then he mentions Lethal Protector, Maximum Carnage, and Separation Anxiety. But you can't be mad that there was an overload because the series is called Maximum Carnage.
I know. This guy...
Not a little bit of carnage.
So not only does he have to go back and reevaluate his comic stance, he's got to go back to school. And he's gonna have to learn the dictionary and what words mean.
Carnage is awesome. Carnage's origin is awesome.
Listen, we have... Our theme song is Carnage Rules by the awesome band Green Jello. Go to www.greenjellosucks.com, 2x.
Smooth.
There you go. So, this guy, he wants to try to school us. He's got to go back to school. You burn.
All right. Well, that's how we're going to end each one? Uh-huh. All right. That's awesome. All right. Moving on to number 9. Image Comics and the Image Comics influence.
What? I am from the school of the Image Comics influence because that's the art style. You think about Image. You had Todd McFarlane. Mm-hmm. You had Jim Lee.
Yep.
You had Rob Liefeld.
Yeah.
You had Mark Silvestri, the very underrated Mark Silvestri, who kicks ass on X-Men. No.
And Eric Larson.
And Eric, the very underrated and overlooked. Do you know Savage Dragon and Spawn are still going to this day?
Yeah. You know, I actually had the first issue of Savage Dragon as a kid.
Oh, you like a bastard.
I read it. Well, I read it so many times I ripped the cover off.
Well, still, you had the first issue.
Yeah. Because we grew up in that. So, like, I don't know about you, but, like, nowadays it's kind of like, oh, that's Marvel, oh, that's DC. But when you're a kid, you're just like, you see Savage Dragon, you're just like, that's superhero. And you don't care about companies.
And he had his own cartoon.
Did he?
Yeah, Savage Dragon. And think about it, Spawn and Savage. See, this guy.
Revelations.
Right. All right.
I knew Spawn had a cartoon. Yeah, I told you that story.
We know. Go back to listen 1, which is on YouTube.com. Just search the On Nerds podcast and listen to Ryan learn about how the Spawn cartoon was not for children.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see what this loser has to say.
All right. He writes, Image is currently known, blah, blah, blah. We'll skip that. The Image art featured women with breasts the size of basketballs and men with muscles so big that Schwarzenegger looked like Stephen Hawking.
Well, Arnold Schwarzenegger was the man. We had Jingle All the Way. We had Commando. We had all the awesome Schwarzenegger movies.
But also just the business model itself.
Yeah.
Presented so many opportunities.
How much you want to bet this loser reads The Walking Dead?
Oh, yeah.
Who published? Oh, yeah. Ryan?
That's Image.
Mr. Brady. I'd like to ask you, which comic company publishes The Walking Dead?
Off the top of my head, I think it's Image.
That is Image. That is Image. What is he talking about? The Image Comics influence? Think about it. people now go to Image after they're done their amazing runs in Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
Ed Brubaker, who was on the Gotham title, then went to Catwoman, and then he went to Marvel. He did the amazing Captain America run, and then he goes and he does his self-published book.
It's a great publisher for creator-owned.
Yes.
You could just keep your own stuff.
And The Walking Dead is one of my favorite shows on television today. I watch it every Sunday with my sister Jennifer, and we make sure that we have some sort of dessert to watch it. And this loser wants to say that. What else does he have to say? Let's see how he wraps this thing up.
At first, the statistic movement was seen as unique and daring, but people soon realized that there was no value behind Image's hideous style. That's his words. And the company was forced to rethink its strategy. Unfortunately, the damage had already been done because it seemed like every artist in the business was copying this style in hopes of striking it big.
Let's talk about this. You look at artists today.
Yeah.
X-Men 92. I did a cover for the editors there to try to get the artist to be the artist on the book.
Yeah.
What style is my style that I grew up with? Is that Image comic style, which we wish we had.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at some of the artists today. I'm not going to name names. Humberto Ramos. But thank you. God, I had to sneeze there.
It's a lot of like minimalist stuff nowadays.
I mean, I love the Daredevil run, but there is no detail.
And I mean, the muscles in the 90s were a lot better than just off the top of my head, Stegman's muscles.
I mean, they may have been big, but they were proportioned.
Yeah.
And this loser wants to diss that. You know what? How about you realize that you read your Walking Dead comics, it's by Image because of those creators. Get this guy out of here. You burn. Next one.
All right. This one's going to be a good one. This one's a good one.
No.
0 Hour.
Oh, my God.
Number 8, 0 Hour.
No lie. No lie.
Oh, it's on here.
We were just talking about Emerald Twilight and 0 Hour.
Yeah, and how much we like 0 Hour.
How many times have you seen The Hero Gone Bad?
Never. No. Yeah. At that point?
At that point?
No.
No. Hal Jordan.
And he doesn't go like a little bad.
No, he goes, if you're going to go bad.
No, he goes like to the extreme.
We have seen the anti-heroes in this era. And by the way, 0 Hour has some of the most beautiful art by Dan Jurgens. I was thinking about today. A lot of my favorite comics art is by Dan Jurgens. Creator Booster Gold. He was, as we'll talk about later, the Death of Superman. Yeah. He was the MVP. He wrote and drew his own series with that Death of Superman. He was and before that he was the artist that took over after Mike Grell on the Green Arrow title.
Yeah.
And he's still in the business today, which is great.
He did the recent Booster Gold.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, I actually used him. I had to give a speech one time, and it was about how I want to become a comic book artist. And I was like, Dan Jurgens got to draw the issue where Superman dies.
How great is that?
Like, he's part of that history. Like, that's how great is that?
Can
you imagine if you were the guy, like, I drew that issue.
I killed Superman.
Yeah.
I'm friends with him on Facebook.
Uh-oh.
Add him on Facebook. Shout out to Dan Jurgens, Facebook friends here.
Oh, man.
He is great. I love Dan Jurgens. But back to this loser.
Jason Serafino, we're back.
You douchebag.
Don't friend him on Facebook.
No, do not. All right, and don't like Complex. You should use that for the Neon Nerds Facebook page. Facebook.com/NeonNerdsPodcast.
Should I read this to you?
Yeah, let's see what this loser has to say.
All right, so he summarizes about reboots, and then he says, in 94, the company put out 0 Hour, a soft reboot of the DC world that saw Hal Jordan go completely batty after his home city was destroyed. Jordan attempted to reshape reality in his own vision and resurrect his home. However, this process included murdering all the other Green Lanterns and destroying time as we know it.
How fucked up is that?
They didn't just half-ass it.
No.
He murders all of the Green Lanterns.
All of them. He goes straight for it. And because all he wanted to do was rebuild his city.
Yeah, and we'll get into that in a little bit.
Because this is the spin out. This is what happened right after the death of Superman. This spun out of control because Mongol was involved in there, and that Coast City was the victim of it. Yeah. No, but and
that's 94. So I mean, was Marvel doing anything that big?
No.
Having a whole city, having Greenland, you might as well blow up Gotham. Having Coast City decimated, and then having that city's hero
go crazy.
Yeah, go postal. I mean, we all remember that cover, right? Where he's got the rings.
He's got the rings on there. Oh, and think about it. This set off Kyle Rayner, who was a beloved Green Lantern. He's one of the few characters I find that in the 90s people wish that Kyle Rayner was back, and that's why he led, like, in the New 52, they rebooted him, like, the Guardian Corps, when they had, like, the Green Lantern, Blue Lanterns, Orange Lanterns. He was the leader of it, because there's such a good fanfare for Kyle Rayner.
And he's sweet, because he's an artist.
Yeah,
he's not making, like, a fist or, like, a magnet. Like, the stuff he makes is pretty legit.
Do you know, fun fact about Kyle Rayner, he has never made the same construct twice.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
You heard it here first, folks.
And think about it, in the Blackest Night one, when they go to, like, the end of where they need, like, the history redrawn.
Yeah.
Hal Jordan is like, Kyle, you're a comic book artist, for Christ's sake. You got to finish this book.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh man, I haven't been. He's like, oh man, right? Just like us artists know, like, oh, I haven't had time to warm up yet. Yeah. And Hal's like, just do it. He's like, but it's not going to be my best work.
Yeah.
I love, let's continue with this 0 hour. Let's see what he says.
He says, although the end result was to make DC less confusing, it frustrated fans more than ever. This is the point when people started needing to lug around an encyclopedia of the DC universe just to understand what a simple comic was about from week to week.
What is hard to... okay.
This was to streamline, though.
Yeah.
This was to streamline everything.
Yeah. It's not like this is what was great about comics in that generation. They used stories to do soft reboots.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they didn't say, all right, all new #1 issues, right? They just said, all right, we're on 59. By the time you get to issue 63, you can keep reading along. It's just everything's back in this one streamline.
Yeah, it's not like the new 52 where they were just like, everything's new.
And everyone complained about...
Yeah, everybody hated that too.
And everyone... Yeah, exactly. So this guy, he's probably a fan. He's probably a fan of #1 issues. Yeah. Just because it makes things easier to read. You know what it's called? It's called being a fan, supporting your local comic book shops, and picking up the past issues. This guy wants to call himself a comic book fan.
This guy likes Brand New Day.
You know what? This Jason douchebag, he supports Mephisto ruining marriages. Loser, you burnt.
Okay. If you're just joining us, you should rewind to the beginning because it's a podcast, it's not live. So number 7, the Punisher revamp. No, I'm not too keen on this one.
You know what? Punisher's not really my cup of tea, but I do like Mike Zeck. I love his artwork.
Mm-hmm.
He did the Punisher artwork around that time. He also
was it Punisher Warzone?
Yeah.
All right.
The original Punisher.
I have some of those.
That was crazy. That's what kind of. Okay, let's see what this guy keeps saying.
So I don't know if you knew about this, but in the 90s, in the late 90s, what they did to him, because he's getting like kind of weird. They had him killed and then come back, and he became like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He was a Punisher, but he was hunting like demons, and he had like magic guns.
There's nothing wrong with a little revamp of a character. The guy. Let's think about it. In the Marvel universe, as much as we love the fact that they can base it in reality.
Yeah.
When you say Captain America was in World War II, and then what happened was they had him kill Baron Zemo before he got frozen, and the son was alive. Yeah. Right before he got frozen, before the rest of the war. So the second Baron Zemo, Baron Helmut Zemo, is one of my favorite top 5 villains of all time, who saw Cap kill his dad. they basically had to say, oh, well, no, that happened after the Black Device. Well, what is it? Because even if he was a Nazi scientist early on, someone has to, because they've already locked down that Cap's in the 1940s, right?
Yeah.
So they just wake him up from the ice later and later as it goes, and they kind of fix the story, the little intricate details. Later on, they'll just do a throwaway line like, oh, well, the adhesive X kept Zemo alive longer. But the Punisher, he was also in what, the Vietnam War?
Yeah.
See,
that's his origin.
That's his origin. So you if you need to kill him off to bring him back as his younger self in a current timeline.
Well, did you ever read Frankencastle?
I did read Frankencastle.
I liked Frankencastle. It was ridiculous, but Tony Moore, he drew it, and that's a great series.
Okay. Mr. Brady, you want to tell me who the artist is on Robert Kirkman's Walking Dead?
I think that's Tony Moore, Phil.
That is Tony Moore. How about that, Jason? You and and which is an Image comic book series.
I do believe you're right.
Let's go see what this douchebag wants to wrap it up. Right now, you're 0 for 3, punk.
He said, coming back from the dead with a fancy new logo and glowing eyes, this new version of the Punisher tried to piggyback off of Vertigo titles such as Sandman and Hellblazer.
Constantine, which people have petitions to bring that show back.
Yeah, to bring it on CW, right?
Yeah, he was on. Yeah, because he was on NBC. And more people watched it. It was on Friday. It was on a Friday night. People are out.
That's Dead Zone.
So it had more people watch it online than they had on the ratings, and they're like, oh, well, people aren't staying at home and watching it, so they canceled it. But it was the most pirated episode of 2015. His appearance on Arrow. So people want Hellblazer.
I also want to point out that this Punisher revamp took place in '98, so I don't think the last 2 years of a decade are not enough to define a decade. And Punisher's not front
Punisher's
line.
not a '90s character. He's
at least so 0 Hour. That was all of DC. Image was a very big component of the '90s, and Symbiote Overload was a Spider-Man, Marvel's flagship.
Yeah, right in the heart of the '90s, '93 to '95. Yeah.
And now he's calling out the Punisher, who, we all like the Punisher, but he's not...
He's not a 90s character, by no means. If they said 2099 Punisher, then we'll try to get on board. Right, but no, this is Frank Castle. You're just trying to find something to knock the 90s. Well, guess what? We just knocked your ass down. Boom, you burnt.
Okay. Number 6, the Electric Superman.
Did you have the action figures?
I wish. I'm still trying to get the DC classics, the really posable ones.
Oh, okay. I had those figures as kids, the blue and the red.
Yeah.
So when an action figure theater was great because when Superman got really pissed, because I had no clue, I didn't read it at the time.
Okay.
I just said, well, my favorite color is blue, and he's looking pretty awesome with those electricity coming from the eyes. Is that? Mm-hmm. Oh, they took a great image here. How can he say that sucks? I'm gonna post this image on our.
I'll have to email it to you.
Yeah, we'll go. You can check it up on Instagram at Neon Nerds Podcast.
But have you read the comics later?
I don't think I ever did. I got a general knowledge of it, but not
you do.
As much.
All right.
Not as much as I want to. Let's see what he says.
This new version of the Man of Steel. This is when they did the blue Superman, red Superman. In case you didn't know. So in '96 he started to lose steam again. So he says instead of finding a tasteful and creative way to propel Supes back into the spotlight, DC slapped an ugly new costume on him and changed his powers.
Yeah, that's real ugly as a pair of jeans and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy.
I don't know enough about his powers. If he could turn into blue or turn into red.
I think it was like a multi-personality split.
But I know each one had different powers.
Yeah, each one had different powers.
But just looking at the costume, he's got the Gambit head sock.
Uh-huh.
I like the blue one because I'm partial electricity. I don't hate it.
I like those costumes. They're sleek.
Cool.
Yeah,
they're kind of cool. I don't know enough about I never read it though.
Yeah, I never read the storyline. Let's see what he wants to say.
Maybe we'll give him a pass. Or we're gonna burn him anyway. Let's see.
Oh, we're gonna hold this fucking speak to the fire.
Well, what he says. is there are certain things you just don't do in the comic world. And one of them is change the basic concept of Superman. For better or worse, he's DC's constant. People need him to be consistent for the nostalgia he brings them, and for the fact that eventually fans want to introduce their own children to the classic Superman.
Well, who would you... I don't think DC is... I don't think Superman... I mean, he's one of the most worldwide recognized characters, but when people talk about DC Comics, they don't say Superman first.
Wait, they say Batman?
They say Batman. I mean, I teach for the state of New Jersey for the library systems, and I'll teach like history of comic books and also the comic book art course. And when I ask them, you know, depending on the age group, you're always like, "Oh, who's your favorite superhero?" For every one Spider-Man, there's about 10 Batman. Oh. Superman, no one really likes Superman anymore.
That's a shame.
Which, I mean, I think because people, I think, well, we're
going to get to that.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
We do have a whole Superman episode coming.
Superman coming, yeah. So let's keep going.
What I think about this, as far as if he said, "Oh, you can't change Superman because he has to be constant," but I'm like, if you put those kind of restraints on Superman, you're gonna get the lame Superman stories.
Exactly. There's a reason why he's being very nitpicky.
Yeah, and who is he to say you
can't do this?
There are things you don't do in the comic world.
Well,
we just talked about how Green Lantern killed all the Green Lanterns. Who's he to tell us what to do in the comic world?
Oh, I think. Oh, come on. Brady just held his feet to the fire. Come on, you gotta do it.
Well, when I write comic books, I'm not thinking about what Serafino's thinking about. I'm not worried about that. You gotta be able to stretch, and I mean, good or bad. I mean, Slott did that with Spider-Man when he put Doc Ock's body, but you gotta take chances because that's how you get gold. All right?
That's right. Come on.
You can't play it safe all the time.
That's right, Ryan.
They killed Superman in the beginning of the decade, and look how it turned out. I mean, he's allowed to try new things.
And guess what, Jason? You burnt. All right. Next one.
Oh, this one.
Oh, my God.
All right. Yeah, he's
really wants to... This douchebag's really going at our hearts.
Well, let's first tell everybody what it is. All right, so number 5, he writes Jean-Paul Valley as Batman, which is his number 5 reason why comics sucked in the 90s. He is really targeting DC.
Yeah, he is.
He's targeting Supes, Bat, 0 Hour.
This was a big success story. People love this story.
This is Batman's Death of Superman. Yeah. This is his Nightfall and Night Quest.
Yes, this storyline. This storyline made it so because people are like certain replacement heroes were in, and Batman never really had that. But think about Batman and the shit he goes through. You wonder why he's not in Arkham. He stays sane in the insane world that is Gotham. This proves that Bruce Wayne, because people are like, everyone thinks it's fun to say, oh yeah, Bruce Wayne isn't really Bruce Wayne. He's Batman first. Mm-hmm. And then he's Batman first, and then Bruce Wayne's really the mask he puts on, which is the best way to think of Batman. Mm. And this proves that Bruce Wayne is Batman first, because you can't put anybody in the Batman costume.
Yeah, they always say, like, anybody can be Batman, but truthfully, no.
Because he has that, no one has felt the pain that Bruce Wayne has felt. Yeah. Whether it be the death of a sidekick, right? We all know his parents are dead.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert for you non-Batman people. But no, so this introduced Bane. Mm-hmm. You don't get the Dark Knight Rises without the storyline. People want to talk about how Bane is one of the best Batman villains. This was his moment. He broke the bat.
You nearly read the 90s. I was born in it.
You want to go and graze over the 90s? Well, guess what? We are the 90s. Thank you, Bane. All right, let's see what this douche wants to... Yes, let's see what this douchebag wants to see.
He writes that readers had no reason to empathize with the murderous Valley, and it also didn't help that he just came across like a cheap Punisher knockoff.
That's exactly what he was supposed to be. He was supposed to be ultra-violent. That's right, Bane. It was supposed to show that this guy is a nut job and not anybody can be Batman.
He was insane.
This set up not only a new villain. This was the next step in Batman. Was he had to, first of all, this is saying that only really if you want to take the Bat mantle away from Bruce, it has to be Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
You know, he and that's during the storyline after spoiler alert, after Asbats is defeated, Dick Grayson becomes Batman for a little bit, just till Bruce is fully healed again.
But yeah, it really just goes to show how great of a Batman Bruce is, because no matter what, he won't cross that line.
Exactly right. This douchebag thinks he can defeat the 90s. I'll break his back. You're burnt by Bane.
All right, the next one is an easy one. Number 4 is the Clone Saga. Hey, Jason, see the last episode, please.
This douchebag has obviously. I think I've said douchebag more times in this recording.
We're very angry tonight, which is awesome.
This is the Hard Knocks episode of the Neon Nerds.
You are wearing like a beanie. We're pretty hardcore.
I'm pretty emo today.
I'm about to get mine. You know what else? No, I kind of.
Yeah, let's tear him a new asshole. Take a batter right up your ass.
You know where you are? So I'm kind of like getting I'm building like a kind of like a I don't know, like a mental image of what Jason Serafino looks like. I think he's one of those dudes who's like wearing like a Punisher camouflage shirt, and he's like way hardcore. He's so hardcore he has to overcompensate. So he doesn't like Ben Reilly.
Are you saying he has a small penis?
I'm just saying he has
a small penis.
I think he does have a small penis.
A small penis.
And he's like, I don't think Ben Reilly's sexy at all. I think the Clone Saga sucked.
You know what? The Clone Saga is amazing for many reasons. And you want to know more about those reasons? Check out episode 2 of the Neon Nerds podcast.
Yeah, we did kind of.
Which will be up on YouTube. Ben Reilly's sexy. He's caring. He's loving. Didn't try to steal Mary Jane. He gave us fun, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man comics when Peter Parker was wrapped up in a cocoon, was taking care of his pregnant wife, right? Which you can't relate at, So basically, in a nutshell, fuck you.
You have to say you're burnt.
You're burnt.
Number 3 is Marvel's reboot, Heroes Reborn.
That's towards the tail end of the. Jim Lee has some really good. Right before he went to DC. Okay, so Jim Lee, who was just voted the greatest comic book artist of all time. Yeah,
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. He started out, he did Punisher in the 90s. If you want to talk about Punisher in the 90s, his artwork was sick.
Huh, I didn't know that.
23 years old. He just turned 23 and he got into Marvel. How insane is that?
How awful do you feel about yourself right now?
You know what? I love Jim Lee. He co-created of Gambit. I've met him a few times at Comic-Cons and everything. He's the nicest human being on the planet.
Yeah.
I can't say anything. And he's the greatest. He is the greatest comic book artist of all time through his artwork, his art style influenced me, influenced generations. People were told to draw like Jim.
Oh yeah.
Because of how good he was.
It is really good.
He's
amazing.
Amazing storyteller. You look at his and he's the reason for the X-Men animated series. You want to know those costumes? All designed by Jim Lee. Those characters, Gambit was a Jim Lee creation, right? Who was one of the stars of that. You want to know where Southern Sassy Rogue is? Comes from that Jim Lee awesome brown coat. But Heroes Reborn. So what happened was Jim Lee worked for Marvel, went for Punisher, created the greatest generation of X-Men comic books, then went to Image, and he came back to Marvel for Heroes Reborn. I know about this, where he basically he did some artwork on the Avengers. He did some artwork for the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And if you want to check out, and right before, this was basically his warm up, because right after this, he went into Batman.
Yeah, they brought Liefeld came over and he did Cap, and Portaccio.
Oh, Will Portaccio.
I don't like Iron Man, but that is the coolest Iron Man when he had like the funnel jet thing.
Yeah, we both. You can't see it. You can't see it, but we just put our arms behind our backs and raised them over our heads to be like that awesome jetpack.
Yeah,
another compliment for you Iron Man fans.
That was your coolest
there.
costume.
That was your coolest costume, and that was also that was a great costume. Do you know he does? I follow him on Instagram.
Yeah.
And he gets commissioned to do that Iron Man a lot, and he's like, I love drawing this. So think how cool of that artist is to say, you know what, I designed this armor, and it's still one of my favorite things to draw. So when you get that commission, you're like, I'm just not getting an awesome Iron Man, I'm getting this guy's Iron Man.
Yeah.
How great is that? And another guy, artist who went to Image, who did amazing work there. So, fuck you, Jason.
Shout out to Portaccio's Iron Man.
Yeah. You know what? You're burnt. All right.
Oh, moving on to, all right, this guy, he really wants to get our ire up. All right. Number 2 on the list of 10 reasons why comics sucked during the 90s, written by Jason Serafino. He says variant covers.
I don't know about you, but I love variant covers.
And variant covers haven't stopped.
They haven't stopped. So he's really...
This isn't like exclusive to the 90s.
No, this is. I mean, it may have debuted in the 90s. I don't remember other variant. No, think about this. You want to talk about when people talk about comic books today? You can get Jim Lee variants. You can get. I mean, comic book artists today for commissions, most of my commissions are sketch cover variants, which are awesome. Yeah. They're blank covers. And they're really for you to talk to comic book artists, and it's a cool little thing to say. I want your artwork on my cover, right? And then when you open it up, you see the cover that was done by the original artist.
Yeah.
So, and this one, I mean, I don't know about you. They're showing 3 Spider-Man. They're showing the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man covers, where it was just the regular one, the gold holofoil, and the platinum holofoil.
Yeah, it's the first issue of Torment.
Yeah, which is such a great story.
I actually had the silver cover.
Do you know that's the rarest one? The platinum one is the rarest one.
Oh shit!
I went to it's about like $60 to $80 on eBay. I found that at a convention for $10. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm getting it. Because the gold one, it was because this was the first time they had first release, the second release, and the third release. So basically it was a 50-50 split with with the gold one and the non-holofoil one, but they kept mass producing it. And then the silver one was like the third run of it, so there was a limited release of that, and that's why it's more valuable.
Yeah.
Right. But let's talk about variant covers. How cool is it to see different artists?
Variant covers are awesome.
I mean, you think about Alex Ross is one of the greatest painters. Let's just not talk about. I mean, and he does almost exclusively superheroes. Yeah. I mean, you get so many Alex Ross variants because they're so good. I mean, and shout out to, rest in peace to one of my favorite artists of all time, Michael Turner, who left way too soon. I always wanted to see him draw Gambit, and one of his variant final covers that he did was a variant to X-Men, which had Gambit on it.
Cool.
I don't get a Michael Turner drawing Gambit if I don't have variant covers.
Yeah.
And how cool is it, the X-Men 1 release that Ryan has framed?
Oh, yeah, with the 4 covers. Yeah.
Of the 4 covers, which were interlocking.
Yeah.
I mean, no, what are you talking about, Jason? How much you want to bet he's like, I love Alex Ross covers. Well, guess what, Jason? You don't get them if you don't get variants. So, fuck you. You're burnt. All right, number 1.
Number 1 on the list is Rob Liefeld.
No, this is a shot. I'm gonna ask Jason. Let's ask. I wish his phone number is here so I can call him and say, name your favorite characters. How much you want to bet he has Deadpool in the top 3?
I wonder if he thought of this himself. or if he was just like, "Hey guys, what's sucked about the '90s?"
I'm currently here, and I need something for people to click on
Yeah.
to try to get clickbait, and I just Googled '90s, and people seem to not like certain things. No, for as much as people...
They like to use him as a punching bag. I've done it before. It's not hard to, but what you can say, though, is that his work was never boring.
It's never boring.
It's always dynamic. It was always like everything that could be shooting was shooting.
And that's the composition. The composition to get guns full blast without cutting off a character's face was amazing. Creator of Deadpool.
Right.
Co-creator of Deadpool. Co-creator of Cable.
Which we should mention that Deadpool is like
one of the most popular characters.
He's so popular that they put him in a book with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like, they have a shared book, and he's getting a movie.
And he's now part of the Avengers.
And he's part of the Avengers.
I mean, if you don't go to a Hot Topic or a Spencer's, the first thing you see is Deadpool.
Yeah, so he's a cash cow. And then he created Cable.
Who was one of my favorite, just not one of my favorite X-Men, one of my favorite characters.
He's the only one that can draw them right.
He's the only one, because he does that perfect mix of old and young and have white hair and not think anything of it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's 3 white hair characters that I can think off the top of my head: Magneto, Quicksilver, Cable. You know, it's easy because Magneto and Quicksilver, father son, which I'm not even gonna think about what they did to that relationship, Marvel. I'm just gonna push that aside.
Oh, Age of Ultron?
No, he's no longer Magneto's biological
son. What?
He's an Inhuman. He's not even a mutant.
Alright, so how would you unslot that?
Okay, how I would do that was I would basically have Scarlet Witch put a hex on Quicksilver and Magneto, so they both believe she knows the truth, and the truth is that they really are the kids of Magneto, but she's doing it to try to get some separation away from her evil ass dad, to try to say, get out of our lives. But then it could be an awesome story where, you know, he sees that whole mist, and he sees that mist that's driving the X-Men off planet, right? But he sees that Quicksilver's health is slowly degenerating, and that's when he knows.
Oh, yeah.
Wait a second.
Know how I would do it?
How would you? I think I know a certain character that's going to bite it.
All right, well, I mean, Juggernaut's there.
He just got done killing Iron Man. Is this before or after the death of Iron Man?
This is after the death of Iron Man.
Okay.
Juggernaut takes Quicksilver and Magneto to like an undisclosed location, and Norman Osborn's there. He was behind the whole thing, just like in Clone Saga.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Because he loves forging DNA tests.
That's great. That is great. Do you know how many dad issues there are in the X-Men alone?
Yeah.
It's never been said, but it's always been hinted at that Sinister is the father of Gambit with the red eyes.
Yeah.
And that's why Gambit, who's getting his own movie, Sinister is the main villain of that.
Oh, is he?
Of that movie.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be awesome. You have Scott Summers, whose dad is Corsair, who is a space pirate.
Yeah.
And Cyclops is like, why weren't you there for me?
And he's the father of Cable.
And he's the father of Cable, the mother is really Madeline Pryor, the Goblin Queen.
Yeah. Not
really Jean Grey, because it's some crazy awesome shit that happened. But yeah. But back to Liefeld. You don't get Cable without Liefeld. You don't get that. You don't get him trying to basically hunt down Apocalypse, going through time. Whenever you need an awesome life interjected into a story, you bring in Cable.
Speaking of, he's the one who really carried New Mutants.
Yes, he did.
He saved New Mutants, and they gave him X-Force.
Yes, that's right.
And if you don't have X-Force, you don't have a Cannonball, Sunspot.
Bromance.
Yeah.
Which is one of the best relationships.
Second to, Booster and Blue Beetle.
Yeah. Whenever you need a good story, you basically have Cable in the future. Something happens and he goes, fuck me. Right. I gotta change this.
Yeah.
And he goes back in the timeline. And he's like, all right, guys, we have some crazy shit we have to handle.
Yeah, 90s X-Force was I always had those. I don't know where I got them from, but those were some of my favorite books. Because they didn't have, like, I watched X-Men cartoon, but I didn't really read X-Men too much. I read X-Force, which is cool. Because it's like kind of like the B team, the lesser known mutants.
They're kind of the underground one.
Yeah.
They're kind of the underground team. And this is a precursor to what next episode will be. He has one of the best lines in the animated series. But they're in Genosha. Storm, Gambit, and Jubilee are basically held captive in Genosha. And Gambit, who's always had that traitor aspect to him, in order to save Jubilee and Storm, he goes in, he's like, I'll tell you anything you want to know. So they basically have Gambit. So as he breaks out, there comes Cable, right, out. And he's like, so Cable and Gambit basically help each other out. And this is a precursor to Cable coming in later when they introduce Apocalypse. So you understand that Cable's now in this timeline. So Gambit's like, who are you? And he's like, the wild man of Borneo. I never got that line. I'll never understand that line. I just remember playing with my action figures. And then when he was going up against a DC villain, they'd be like, who are you? That was his first line, the wild man of Borneo, and then he'd shoot him. That was that's what I loved. I love Cable. And let's talk about, and we already talked about Deadpool. You don't get awesome pouches on characters. I mean, think about, sometimes when you think about Superman and Batman, they have the underwear over their tights. How cool is it when Batman has pouches and say, oh my god, here's a smoke pellet, here's a batarang. Yeah. That's Liefeld pouches.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you don't like Cable, then you at least like Deadpool. And if you don't like Cable or Deadpool or pouches, then why are you listening to this podcast? But no, seriously. Rob Liefeld, a great storyteller. Always did the max. You don't get Image without him. You don't get Deadpool without him. You don't get Awesome without him. So therefore, Jason, you can take your list and you can shove it up your ass. You burn. All right.
And that we've given enough time to Jason on this podcast, so
never again.
Yeah, we're done with you.
We're done with you. Get that shit out of here. All right. So you ready?
We're ready to address the death of Superman.
Well, I'll be posting the picture up on Instagram, which is just at Neon Nerds Podcast. I'll be putting it on Twitter, which is at Neon_Nerds. I'll be putting it on Facebook, which is facebook.com/Neon Nerds Podcast. Ryan had a cape already ready to go on the chair. He's wearing the Superman shirt. I'm wearing a Batman hoodie. So we're ready. We're DC'd out this episode because we're talking about one of the most impressive stories in which all started out from a joke.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. Every DC summit when they would get the writers together. Yeah. Jerry Ordway, the writer of Superman for years and years. Him and John Byrne are probably one of the most definitive creative teams on Superman. He'd always John Byrne left. You know, he was having creative differences with DC, so he was off the title. And every year, Jerry Ordway said, "Let's just kill Superman. Let's just kill Superman." So the running joke was every summit was, "Let's just kill Superman." And so what happened was during this time period, there was a little show called Lois and Clark.
Great show. I watched all of it.
Yeah, Dean Cain. Shout out to Dean Cain, ladies and gentlemen. Was a great Superman.
And shout out to Terry Hatcher, because I think she's the best Lois Lane.
She is the best Lois Lane. Yeah. You go back and check out all the Superman movies, the Man of Steel, the Superman Returns with Brandon Routh. There was no better. She was spunky, she was feisty, and she was like, I'm not Superman's wife.
Yeah, she was.
Right. Superman is Lois Lane's husband. Yeah. That's the type of Lois Lane I like to read. I like spunky, fiery Lois Lane. So during this time, they were going to marry. They were going to marry Lois and Clark in the comics, because in the comics, Lois Lane, who didn't know Superman was Clark Kent at the time. She always had that infatuation with Superman. Well, now finally, Lois Lane has fallen in love with Clark Kent. So she gets to have her cake and eat it too. She gets Clark Kent and Superman. So they're gonna marry them. But they had Lois and Clark. And the writers of the TV show said, you know what, this is a nice story. She knows who Superman is, is Clark Kent.
Yeah.
So she gets to make fun excuses for why Clark Kent's not there. And so what happened was, they said, we're going to marry them in the show. So DC says, okay, well that season doesn't air for a couple more months, like about 6 months.
Yeah.
We're going to tie it in so people can buy the comic and watch the episode on the same day. It's going to be like the official day Lois and Clark got married. So they had a couple months left on the slot to kind of do with free with Superman stories because John Byrne left. So they didn't have John Byrne for his ideas. And Jerry Ordway was like, well, we can always kill Superman. And then went, you know what? Let's do it.
Yeah.
And he's like, wait. I watched the DVD of do you have the Superman Doomsday cartoon movie?
Yes, I do.
That's the special features. They have the video of that summit. So you get to see the rockin' 90s style that they're wearing and everything. And they're going, yeah, let's kill him. Let's do this. And they kept it very hush hush. Like they slowly, and just like Ben Reilly, you only saw a hand of when they introduced Doomsday, which is basically this alien creature.
First page.
Yeah. It's just his hands. Each time you see him, no matter what story Doomsday appears in, it's his hands. And one of the things is, like one of his first appearances, he sees a bird. And the bird lands on his hand and he crushes it.
And then he laughs.
Yeah. I mean, this, and it's more like a guttural ha 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 ha, because as later you find out, Doomsday is just a hate machine.
Yes.
Like he's not really a machine, he's an alien, but he's the living embodiment of hate, as Dan Jurgens said.
Yes.
I don't see any other character you could say is a living embodiment of hate in comics. But just the way everything's the way he's presented is he comes in, and that's when they're like, oh, there's another alien invasion. Let's get the Justice League. But here, okay, so the post origin was, you know what? Hey, cat. So what happened was they introduced them at the summit meeting that they're going to bring in this guy and they're going to kill off Superman. So they're like, well, how do we go about this? Well, we'll just have him really just beat the Justice League International.
Yeah.
So now with all that backlog of the summit, the creative summit and everything, we're now going to go into the comics portion. So what started out as a joke for years and years and years, they need a couple months before the TV show to match up with their comic book. So they introduce the death of Superman. So they start out with how they planned it. It's just a no-name guy.
They don't really set it up. They don't give him an origin. No. He's just first page. He's punching his way out of a box. Yeah. You don't know where the box is. They talk about it through the issues, like, oh, did Cadmus make it? Did Lex Luthor make it?
See, this was what was so great about this. What great storytelling is we never saw this coming. They introduced this as like another one-off.
Oh, really?
Like, I mean, I remember, like, I was just, like, they didn't have any hints that Superman's going to die. Lois and Clark, the TV show's doing really well, So let's go.
And he kind of invades each book, too, because it's 7 books total. So it starts out Superman, Man of Steel. Then it goes to Justice League America. Then it goes to Superman. Objectiveless. Then it goes to the Adventures of Superman, Superman Action Comics, Superman Man of Steel, and finally Superman 75. This is where it ends. So
this was all in the matter of 2 months. Yeah. Because one issue per week, which was so innovative at the time, for this storyline to say, hey, we have 4 different titles of Superman, but we're going to make them all cross over, so it's like a weekly event. So you didn't really give 2 shits about this guy. There's just some alien that's going to be a foe of Superman.
But it's clever though, because if you're only buying Justice League, and you get to number 69. You're like, who's this Doomsday guy? How did he beat all the Justice League? Like, because before each issue, it's always like, stop, go back and read Man of Steel 18.
Yeah, that was great. When I saw two things that I miss in comic books, which is why I love this series, is it didn't have people love recap pages. I wasn't a fan of recap pages because I felt like it didn't do the original story justice.
Yeah.
So I like when books said stop and grab this issue, because if you're like, oh my god, this is great. And they also had the little asterisk that was like translated from Russian, or with the little edit or the asterisk, and you'd look in the panel and be like, see Justice League number 69 or see Justice League number 71. That you can go back and check it out, which is why I love the way this was done, because you just see this guy in a green battle suit up until the penultimate issue where his face is actually revealed, I think.
Because he gets it kind of melted halfway off. Mm-hmm. Because remember, he has his one arm's tied behind his back.
Yeah, for most of the... See, we want to talk about a badass villain, Doomsday.
He defeats the Justice League single-handedly.
Literally single-handedly.
Yeah. And like you said, when you first start reading it, you're like, who's this green guy? He's just a green jumpsuit. His arms tied behind his back. You don't know anything about him.
And he doesn't say anything. He just grunts.
He just quick kills things and laughs, and they just say Doomsday is coming. They keep saying that.
They keep saying, "Oh, how cool is that? Doomsday is coming. Doomsday is coming." And I'd like to take this time to give a shout out to one of the MVPs of the Death of Superman. There he is, Booster Gold. I love Booster Gold. And he's the actual one who gives the name to Doomsday. Because as they're fighting, because they did a great job. This is another way of really setting up a story. Instead of giving them the Justice League of saying, oh, here comes Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, they basically said, oh, this is a good time to send the B team out there, which was the Justice League International, which had Guy Gardner, Fire, Ice, and of course the two of the greatest DC characters ever, Booster Gold and Blue Beetle.
Which I love this Justice League.
Which leads in, we should do classic currents.
Yeah.
Which is where we talk about current storylines that feel like 90s comic books. Because one of them was just about about maybe 10 years ago, was formerly known as the Justice League, which brought back the Justice League International.
That was that Brightest Day. When they were trying to get Maxwell Lord because he came back.
Yeah, because Maxwell Lord.
I do have some of those issues.
Yeah, that's a good storyline. But yeah, so Booster Gold gives the name to Doomsday because he's like...
Well, he says, wonder if that rubber-suited powerhouse is biological or some kind of doomsday machine.
So he's the first one to kind of say...
And then Superman grabs him because he's in that force field suit that he has, and he kind of gets knocked back by Doomsday with like a punch. That's a cool picture too.
Oh, that's Dan Jurgens' art.
And so Superman says, "I hear you people were having some trouble." And then Booster says, "Trouble isn't the word, Superman. I'm telling you right now. It's like Doomsday is here."
Boom. See, creative writing. What Marvel does great in their movies is they never call them out. They never say, "Oh, he's Iron Man" or "he's Captain America," right? They just said they give reasons for their names, like, "Oh, I'm a captain, right? I'm Captain America, right?" Just the political advice, and they have people name them. So it's kind of someone else names them, and that's what's great about here. This is really early stuff here. When Booster Gold is like, it's like the Doomsday is here.
Yeah.
So all those issues leading up to Doomsday is coming, Doomsday is coming, Doomsday is here. I love it. Booster Gold. And also, but in this, so they did a real good job of setting this up, is the fact that they went with the B team for Justice League, because that's how dismissive everyone was of this alien. Was just saying it's one single alien. There's no spaceships. He's not 10 feet tall. He's not like 100 feet tall. He's not some giant sentinel type thing. He's just this average sized alien. So they send the B team at him, and he punches. Here's another MVP. Blue Beetle.
He gets rocked.
He gets rocked by Doomsday gets a punch straight to the face. And you know what? He's the only one. Up until that point, everyone who got punched by Doomsday, if they weren't superpowered, they got killed.
Yeah.
So Ted Kord is just an average dude. He gets punched in the face. He's in a coma, but he's all right. He doesn't die. Little Easter egg. I used to play a game, a tabletop miniatures game called HeroClix. Mm-hmm. And in the very first set they came out with, they had Doomsday. Doomsday was in the set, and Blue Beetle was in the set, and they had a certain amount of clicks that you had to click the base of, and then it would go to KO. Right. They purposely had Ted Kord, Blue Beetle. His dial was 7 clicks long. So on that 6th click, was his final click. They had Doomsday have 5 clicks of damage. So if he successfully hit Blue Beetle was still alive. And not many characters lasted that long, which was the thing. So he was able to take a shot from Doomsday to live. I thought that was a great little Easter egg for the game. And that's how great Ted Kord is. And But yeah, so I think Bloodwind wasn't Bloodwind?
Bloodwind's also in it.
Bloodwind gets so that's what we're talking about here. The great setup by DC to say Bloodwind's not a known hero at this time. Guy Gardner
he wasn't even Green Lantern. He was Warrior at this time.
Was he Warrior at this time?
He had the yellow ring. He lost the green ring.
Oh, so here we go. We have someone who loses the green ring, Green Lantern. He's not even the second one, because you have Hal Jordan and John Stewart, who are to me they're Green Lantern. But Comet Man is my favorite. No, I love Hal. Either way, he's so low on the totem pole, Guy Gardner, because Comet Man isn't created until after.
Yeah,
because as we say.
0 hour
Twilight, 0 hour hasn't happened. So this is how. So now you realize shit is all going down until Superman arrives. You're like, all right, here comes Superman. He's saying, as Brian read earlier, heard to have some trouble down here, right? Yeah. So.
Well, I just also wanted to point out this other character who he's my personal MVP. I like Booster, I like Blue Beetle, but this one kid, he's definitely a 90s kid. He's got long hair and he has a backwards hat. And while Doomsday is beating up the Justice League, we get a little peek into his life, and he doesn't really want to go home. He says, "I hate this hole." He calls it a dump. So he walks in. And his mom is feeding the baby, and he's like, "Hey, we have any soda?" And the mom's like, "I don't have time to go shopping today." And he says, "I'm really tired of that baby being the only one around here who rates. I mean, Dad always has soda for me at his new apartment." And the mom's like, "I'm sorry, Mitch, but I can't keep up with everything. This house isn't perfect, and neither am I, but I do the best I can." And he's like, "Geez, no wonder Dad wants a divorce."
Oh!
You're like, can we get, what's going on? The mom isn't disheveled. It's not like a rundown place. She's not yelling at him. She's trying to take care of the baby.
He's just an angst.
And he's just he's like, ah. Oh. But I mean, he only has a little scene. But I just thought this story still holds up if you re-release it today. But he specifically is 90s. He is the embodiment. If Doomsday is the embodiment of hate, then Mitch is the embodiment of the 90s.
He's the true embodiment of hate. You don't speak to your mom that way. What a dickbag. You know what? Jason.
Oh no, it's Jason. He's like, I hate the 90s.
Alright.
So he doesn't actually get revealed until all of the Justice League and
until half of his face is.
Yeah, they kind of melt his costume and then they free his other arm.
Because all the energy blasts of they're all like, all right, here comes Booster, here comes Soups, and so Soups thinks he's tough shit going into this. I heard you need some help, guys.
Yeah.
That's a little bit condescending, Soups.
Yeah.
And so you see in this one page, Doomsday, his arm gets free and he just bitch slaps Superman while attacking the entire Justice League. And so you're like, okay. So now as a reader, you're thinking, I've dismissed this guy way too early.
Yeah.
This is grade A storytelling. And we're talking about different writers and artists on this series. We like to say that I say that Dan Jurgens is the MVP of this because he was the one who did the initial design for Doomsday. Because if you see Doomsday, he's got like the bones sticking out of like covering a little bit of his eyes. He's got the bones, knuckles like sticking out of his fist. Like he's a really cool creative character. But this is what shows you in comics when you can get a creative summit going.
Yeah, because there's all these.
Here you go. Here are the. Let's go get the. Here you go. Here they are. Dan Jurgens, Jerry Ordway, Louise Simonson, Roger Stern, John Bogdavone, Tom Grummett. Tom Grummett is one of my personal favorite artists.
Yeah.
He's the one who created Superboy with the leather jacket. He was the artist, and he's the one who did the Tim Drake Robin solo series of the 90s.
When he fights Joker?
Yeah, when he fights
Joker's Wild?
Yeah, Joker's Wild.
Which also had some sweet ass hollow.
Yeah.
A little bit of hollow cover.
A little bit, but not too much.
It's just the card.
Yeah, exactly right. And Jackson Geis, I know he now goes by the name of Butch Geis, who just had an awesome run on Captain America. Brett Breeding, Rick Burchett, Doug Hazelwood, Dennis Janke, and Dennis Rodier. Think about all these people together. You could not tell who besides Dan Jurgens, whose artwork is one of my favorites, and like I could point out anyone that is that's Dan Jurgens' artwork. Mm-hmm. You look at this; they retained a story through the writing. You can't tell which one it is. That's a mark of a good sit-down summit. You can't tell who wrote which issue, who drew which issue, because they were so in sync, and that's why this was so critically acclaimed, and why the Clone Saga. Obviously, if you want to be, with the Clone Saga, you want to talk about it, like, this is it. Like, this led to the Clone Saga. This led to Nightfall. Because this showed you, if you can get a well-orchestrated, because a lot of things with Marvel and DC now, the big complaint are big events. Yeah. Like, I remember I used to look forward to big events because they were so well planned out, so creatively put together.
Yeah, and like we said, it's concise too. Exactly.
Here's this page I'm looking at is Tom Grummett artwork. I love Tom Grummett. I love Dan Jurgens. But you can, we're just looking at flipping through the pages now. But you can see it's basically just a giant ass fight scene because this is the living embodiment of hate.
Every issue.
And what's cool is you get Superman saying, "All right, I gotta make sure he doesn't get the Metropolis. Gotta make sure he doesn't get the Metropolis." The entire series, he's now saying. We underestimate. See, this is what's cool about Superman back then is he always had humility.
Yeah.
Like Superman today, I feel like doesn't have humility. Like this one, and especially not to go on a tangent here, but I hate that Superman and Wonder Woman are together because I feel like he's so human when he's with Lois.
Yeah.
That if you don't have Lois Lane to keep him grounded, then you can't relate to Superman.
Just a side question: Do you want him to give him his red underwear back?
I do.
Me too.
It's classic. It's too blue. Like, I love blue, but it's too blue. Like, I love the way... And plus, he was created in the 40s.
Yeah, it's a strongman.
It's the strongman look. And that's... So, I mean, and he's part of the greatest... Him and Cap are part of the greatest generation of heroes.
Yeah.
Keep that little nod there. But... So, as we get to the final... And this is why we made this a double episode, because the story is only 7 issues long.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like the
last issue is all splash page.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Most of them are splash pages. They're either double page spreads or they're splash pages, and you can just see like it's Superman thinking for the first time in a long time. Superman's doubting himself.
Yeah,
I don't know if I can do this. I don't think I can do this, and so finally he gets to the point where, all right, I'm facing against this living embodiment of hate. So we get to the point where, it's just Superman mano a mano with this version of hate, and Superman does it.
Yep.
And you're like, yes, Superman has done it. He saved Metropolis. But then at the end is one of the biggest twists. He just he couldn't stand up, and the one page he's sitting up in Lois's arms.
Yeah.
It's so emotional, and they're all like, "You did it, Clark. You did it. You saved us all." And then he just goes limp, and he falls into the rubble, and his cape is like a tattered flag. And it goes, "Today's the day," or something like that. Superman died. And that's how they ended it.
I actually read it this morning, and I've read it before. Like, I know how it ends. I read it in '93. Still teared up a little bit at the end. I still felt that
Superman is probably the first character. Like, I don't know about kids today. It seems like Batman's their first introduced character, but
I can understand that.
I can understand that. I remember my dad introduced me to Superman, Spider-Man, and Batman, like when you're a kid. So you understand that Superman is there.
Yeah.
He's who you. If you're a kid and you want superpowers, you want to be Superman, and you want to fly, you want the super strength, right? You want the super speed. So the fact that this is an icon that just bit it, like and nothing, and what it was, a perfectly executed, perfectly planned out. What turned into a joke turned into a masterpiece. And so this is what DC did great. They said, we can all be Superman. We can all be an embodiment of Superman. Now, even if you're not Superman. So this led into the reign of the Superman, which was only about 2 months, because now we just had to have a few stories in between, and then a Superman resurrection to get to the wedding issue. Because to get the wedding issue makes up the TV series. So Reign of the Superman happened, which was, who is Superman? Is Superman back?
Yeah.
Right. So they introduced 4 characters. They introduced based off the actual titles of the books, and it's really cool that each one is part of a legacy of Superman, or Superman through the years. When Superman first debuted, of course, when he was with the Legion as a kid, right? They had the Metropolis Kid, right? So the Metropolis Kid. So during this time period, Superboy, they debuted a new version of Superboy, which is a clone of. Wait, she says, "Don't call me Superboy, call me Superman." Cause
he tries to copyright the Superman title.
So how creative is that? I know how you can get a little bit carried away with copyright. When I started to create artwork, and then I found out someone was copying my style of prints, I was like, "Hey, I can copyright that. I'll call them illustrations."
You're Superboy then.
Hey, without Superboy, I didn't learn the legal ramifications of copyright.
Yeah, but he's a clone of Superman and Lex Luthor.
Because as they went to bury Superman, Lex Luthor, that crazy bastard that he is, kidnaps the body, and then Lois Lane and Supergirl have to re-get the body. So this is poor Superman, who thinks he's dead, right? Who thinks he's dead. His body's tossed around by Lex Luthor, which is effectively, they say he's cloned Superman, but by doing so, you find out that they always hinted towards that he was also part clone of Lex Luthor, which ultimately Jeff Johns, who we love, we've mentioned before, brings that back in Teen Titans.
Yeah.
And he finds, so that gives a question of identity. Am I more like Superman, or am I more like Lex Luthor? But so they introduced the Metropolis Kid, and then of course other known names of Superman is called the Man of Steel, in which they introduced a personal favorite of Ryan's.
Yeah, Steel,
John Henry Irons, who was just a simple you and me. See, we don't have powers.
I've thought about this, actually, because he's a little bit like Iron Man, but he's better.
He's better.
Because his backstory is that he was saved by Superman, and Superman saves him because he's a steel worker. He falls off some girders. Superman catches him, and Henry Johnson's like, "Hey, how can I repay you?" And Superman's like, "Make a difference." So after Superman dies, he forges his own suit of armor.
John, you gotta give it to JHI.
Yeah.
John Henry.
And then he goes and does it, and so it makes him cooler than Iron Man because he's a blue collar worker.
He's you and I. He's not. You know what? I don't know about you, Ryan. I don't have millions of dollars that I can buy and build my own suit.
No.
But maybe I can weld. I don't know. I haven't tried welding. But then they had, of course, so he's the Man of Steel. John Henry Irons, the Metropolis Kid is Superboy. Then you have. Do you want to know what's also cool about Steel? He never claimed that he was Superman.
No. Yeah.
You had, of the 4 people who come out and say they're Superman. He's included in that 4, but he never says. He's like, no, I'm just the Man of Steel, representing to make a difference. Then, of course, they call Superman the Man of Tomorrow, which introduced Cyborg Superman,
Yes.
who is still around today, and is one of the. He also sends he starts Emerald Twilight, and 0 Hour. You don't get that without Cyborg Superman. Part of the Sinestro Corps now, part of the Yellow Lanterns. So he was the Man of Tomorrow, which is awesome because cyborg technology is tomorrow. Cyborgs are apparently tomorrow's technology. And then you had the last son of Krypton, which we all know, Superman's origin, born on the planet Krypton, was sent away from his planet that's about to be destroyed. So they call him the last son of Krypton. So they introduced a character called the Eradicator, who was a villain, but a reformed villain. See, a lot of villains who become heroes up until this point, but not heroes who become villains.
This is cool, Steel.
We're gonna post this picture.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I got the artist. It's Bogdanov.
He's so cool.
But his Steel run, like that whole series was good.
Look at we're gonna post that.
I'll post it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna post that on Instagram and Facebook and all that. But how cool is that? And then Eradicator, which was a reformed villain. So you have 3 people claiming to be Superman. One saying I'm not Superman.
Yes.
You don't know who I am, but I'm not Superman. So you had Lois Lane interview them, and then ultimately Superboy was like, "No, I'm not Superman. Look at me."
Yeah.
Right. And he had that cool ass leather jacket.
Well, you want to go into his costume?
Let's go into his costume.
All right. So we both love the leather jacket, and I like the undersuit too.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And then he had like those little those circular sunglasses he wears sometimes.
The John Lennon sunglasses, I like to call them.
Yeah, the gold earring, and then he's got like that haircut, which kind of came back.
Which, a lot of people say, a lot of people are like, think about it. Blonde highlights have come and gone, Ben Reilly. Now you have Superboy's hairstyle of where the sides are shaved, but the top is longer, and even the top is parted. He had the cool Jerry curl up there.
He had the curl.
His hair was shaved. He had the earring, man. He was styling.
That's coming back, too.
And what was cool is he had red pants.
Yeah.
He had red pants, and the torso was blue. So it was that cool little updated look of, we just talked about earlier, how we wanted the red trunks back. This was a cool little nod to it.
And you kind of knew, like, he had a cool suit underneath, like, if that jacket ever came off.
And he had the awesome red gloves.
Yeah.
How awesome was that? See, so Superboy, I love Ben Reilly's costume for the simplicity.
Yeah.
But you could be Peter Parker, Ben Reilly. You can't be Superboy, but you could be friends. Yeah, I felt like I wanted to be friends with him. Like the leather jacket, the cool Superman, the black boots, the red gloves. Like I could be, I could be friends with him. That's why I love that costume. But Lois Lane, what was cool was they had Lois Lane interview each of them, and that's the Superboy thing. No, it was like, no, I'm not Superman. But then you had the Cyborg who was like, I'm just suffering from amnesia.
Yeah. Right? I have the one issue where he like saves the White House from attack, and then like he like pops like his ear off, and it's a communicator he like gives to the president. He gives it like Clinton, and they're like, I guess Superman's back.
Wait, what's funny is, like, you saw Bill and Hillary were in this. And now, imagine if Hillary wins the presidency, that Bill in this story is still relevant for when younger readers pick it up, because they're like, wait a second, President Clinton, they're just talking about Hillary. How weird is that?
Yeah, but he turns out to be a bad guy. He's Hank Henshaw,
doctor was like the doctor who basically created the cyborg. And then you had Eradicator, who was like a villain, and he was like, you know what? I was, but the thing about Eradicator was he was taking the energy from Superman in order to become Superman.
So wouldn't that kind of clue him in? Like, hey, maybe if I can get energy from a corpse,
maybe I could think that. But ultimately, you find out, and he becomes. So now it's coming up, and Superman's about to come back in one of the most creative plot devices
the thing that
ever
brought
used.
us together.
The two words that brought the Neon Nerds together: healing coma.
Yeah.
He was underground. His body was tossed around. Fortress of Solitude, where they hardly get any sun. He was buried under the ground, which he was like a plant, ready to get the sun and come back as Superman. And what happened was Eradicator goes to basically save Superman, and like he gets blown to dust. But the energy that comes out of Eradicator goes back into Superman, so now he's back to being fully powered Superman. How cool is that?
I had that issue where he's like, he's kind of in heaven, and that's the issue where, because his Pa Kent dies too. He's like dying. He has a heart attack.
How cool.
And he sees Superman being led away, and he's like, no, you have to go back. And I think that's the issue where they open his coffin and it's empty.
Yeah. Okay, this is how great this story was the fact that healing coma, right? Let's all talk about healing. We all love the healing coma, but they went into the Ma and Pa Kent. Think how cool. I always love when they go back to Superman's parents. I'm not talking about Jor-El.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Ma and Pa Kent, who raised him. She sewed the costume for him for Superman. Right, so you have all these great aspects of this character. So when you bring in Ma and Pa Kent, it's the human side of Superman. So the fact that his death devastated him so much that Pa Kent had a heart attack, and that's what leads into the opening of the coffin, and he's not there. How great is that?
So he has the right idea though, because I've always thought, like, if I wanted to grow long hair or I wanted to grow a beard, I don't want to. There's that in between phase where you go from clean shaven to having like a full Obi-Wan beard, and I don't want to I don't like that in between because it bothers me.
Yeah.
And if how you're trying to grow your hair out, you get to like that in between phase. So I always thought like I would go into a coma and I would come out, my beard would be full, and I'm like, oh, okay. Or I go into hypersleep and come out with a full head of hair. That's all Superman was doing. He uses that healing coma as an opportunity
to be a little bit stylish.
Yeah.
You know what? I prefer, here we go again. Sexy mullet Superman.
You like
with
it?
With the grub. Yeah. It was a new look for Supes. Everyone was like, oh, you're the Boy Scout and everything. Nah. I can be, and he kept that for a long time.
Yeah, he did.
He kept that long hair.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't until the wedding issue where he cut it.
Well,
that's another thing to tie it all back in together was like, all right, Clark, you had your bad boy phase. It's time to shave. Get that 5 o'clock shadow out. Cut the hair. Because I'm currently in between. I haven't gotten a haircut in like...
Oh, no. You should have went to healing coma.
I should have been in a healing coma for this thing to happen.
Just to grow your hair out.
But
he does keep for a while. The problem I ran into was some guys can draw it and it looks good. Other guys can't really handle the hair, and they just make it look like a mess.
I think Tom Grummett does the best version of it because he was on the main Superman title after this. After this, when Superman comes back, yay, he's alive! Yay, he saved us!
Yeah.
From Cyborg Superman and Mongol and all that. Yay, Superman's back, and he kept the long hair. And Tom Grummett was the artist on that series afterwards, and the Superboy series. So he was pulling the double duty of how cool. So that's why I like Tom Grummett. He made the awesome Superboy look, and he could draw long hair Superman.
Is the series with when they blow up Coast City? Is that when Superman has the black suit, all black suit with the silver logo?
Yeah.
Okay.
How sleek is that?
That was pretty cool.
During the death of Superman, he wore like that black suit because black attracts the sun. And when you're
Oh, that's clever.
And we're just,
I didn't. I was. Oh man, I didn't know that.
Oh, see, here we go. This is why we love '90s comics.
That's cool. I always like, no matter how pseudo-y it is, if you have a reason for something, I'm in.
I'm into it. And so he wore the black costume. Yeah, he wore the black costume.
Because it attracts the sun.
Because it attracts the sun to heal him. They keep healing his body.
That's great.
So Death of Superman led into Reign of the Superman, which gives us Superboy and Steel, who are still around today.
Mm-hmm.
And Cyborg Superman.
He's still around too.
Who has an interesting backstory. Now he wants to die.
Yeah, that's all he wants.
All he wants to do is die because he learned that they think he can live forever.
Yeah, because whenever he blows up, he just reassembles himself.
He reassembles, and he's like, no, I thought that's why he's part of the
Sinestro
Corps, because he's like a manhunter for it. Like, he's like, I'll put myself first to die.
Yeah.
What a great fucking story. Jeff Johns, I feel like, and this is cool. Jeff Johns, who's the main chief creative officer of DC Comics, he helps plan out the new events, and he's the one who wrote Flashpoint, which is why I like the new 52s, because Jeff Johns does it in a cool little way. He plays with the butterfly effect to reboot the universe and kind of give it an update. Which, I don't know, I'm still 50-50 on the new 52, but I love I love how Aquaman came out of it. Mm. I want them to give the beard back to Green Arrow.
Yeah,
which
they kind of Hawkeyed him a little bit.
Yeah, which Jeff Johns, you got me and Kevin Smith, we'll bring back the beard. And Marvel, you got Ryan Brady and I. You listened to episode 2. We're waiting for that. We're waiting for Scarlet Spider. We will bring back Ben Reilly, and we will teach kids how cool it is to have a fun Spider-Man. Not a Dick Spider-Man. Not a Doc Ock Spider-Man.
Not a Tony Stark Spider-Man.
Not a goddamn Tony Stark. All right. Marvel, we have great ideas. You're going to hear this, and you're going to love us. And that's why we still have our Twitter contest for the
segue.
For the Ben Reilly. We had to cut it short. If you listened to the full episode last time, we teased it. We had to end it early because Jack, he's with us.
He's right here.
Yeah.
He's actually laying on the Superman cape.
There you go. He's our own little Superman.
He's Crypto.
So Crypto is still with us.
Yeah, just a quick update. He's fine.
Yeah. So the Twitter contest, tweet at Neon Nerds, at Neon_Nerds, at Marvel, hashtag Clone Saga. We're going to give away original art. I'll do an original drawing of Ben Reilly. Ryan will do an original drawing of Ben Reilly. So we want you to tweet at us, at Neon_Nerds, tweet at Marvel with the hashtag Clone Saga. And we want to, not only are you going to get free art, but you're going to spread the word about the podcast. If you're listening to it, that means you're a fan. Let's get other people to like it. And you can hopefully see us on Spider-Man one day, because we honestly would love nothing more than to bring back Ben Reilly. Ben Reilly is needed more now than ever. Believe me, Dan Slott. All right. But I still collect Slot Spider-Man. So
yeah.
I love Spider-Man, and I gotta collect. I collect it. I like the way it was resolved, the Doc Ock one. But
well, I mean, the Alex Ross covers don't hurt either.
Yeah, don't hurt either, man. The variant covers, fuck you, Jason. You burn again for the 11th and 12th time. All right, so that's the Superman. That's it in a nutshell. A really successful story.
It didn't drag on either.
It didn't drag on. 7 issues, lasted 2 months. Reign of the Superman lasted for another 3 months, which is cool because you got new stories, new characters, characters that are still around. You pick up Teen Titans. You're still going to get Superboy. Mm-hmm. You pick up Green Lantern. Hal Jordan still hates the fact that he did what he did, but you still have Cyborg Superman in there. Steel, who he hasn't been brought back in the new 52 yet.
Oh, he hasn't.
But he'll be. Hey, DC. Ryan Brady and I.
Put us on Steel.
Well, and we're not gonna have Shaquille O'Neal Steel. we're gonna have true John Henry Irons I love it. Irons.
Yeah.
Steelworker. Man. But so that really successful story, you can pick it up in trade, just like all the comics we talk about. Single issues are cheap. Trades are cheap. They're really affordable, really easy to get. Great art by Tom, my personal favorites, Tom Grummett and Dan Jurgens. They're definitely my top 5 artists of all time. Jerry Ordway is probably the premier Superman writer. Louise Simonson, who was the main editor on the book, because I remember seeing her on the DVD extras. She's the one who said, "Yeah, let's go for it." Like, she's the one. John Bogdanove had a great Superman artwork. Butch Geist is great. He's still in there. And to all the other creators, Brett Breeding, Rick Burchett, Doug Hazelwood, Dennis Janke, and Dennis Rodier, you gave us a great story, a classic, a timeless story that came out of the 90s comic books. So, next week on I'm sorry, Ryan. Would you like to give your final thoughts? Like, Jerry, this is the Jerry Springer part of our show. We have our final thoughts.
Oh, okay.
Final thoughts on the death of Superman.
Sometimes we lose loved ones, but they never really leave us. They just go into healing comas. And as always, take care of yourselves and each other. No, it's just a great series. There's nothing that you could really hate about it.
No, there's not.
Like, Clone Saga, alright, it went on too long, whatever. But there's nothing that really people love this.
People love this.
Death of Superman.
It's Death of Superman. It's great. So next week's episode of the Neon Nerds podcast, we're going to move away from comic books.
Yeah, so fire up your VHS players.
Break out the Pizza Hut. Break out the Pizza Hut. We're going Saturday morning cartoons, but specifically our PhDs. I have a PhD in X-Men the Animated Series.
No, I have a PhD in Batman the Animated Series.
We're going to talk about Batman the Animated. We're going to make this sort of a once a month installment. We're going to rewatch our favorite cartoons from that decade. My favorite cartoon series of all time is still X-Men the Animated Series.
Yep.
And I assume yours.
Yeah, mine's Batman, yeah.
Yeah.
It actually gets better with age.
Yeah, people are like, the X-Men one doesn't hold up.
Oh, it holds up.
It holds up. I mean, I go to one of my conventions, and people are, when they go to look at my artwork, and they say, "Oh, I love the 90s X-Men," they have their kids with them. Because now we're getting to the age where people our age have kids. They're like, "Oh, yeah, I show them X-Men the Animated Series." Because it's such a good story to kind of learn, to kind of bring into kids. It has that moral aspect. It has the fun to it.
Is it the first or second episode? There's an angry mob chasing mutants. They're like, we don't like muties. Get them out of here.
And he was like, I just look different.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, that's very current.
It still holds up.
I don't want to get political, but there's a certain candidate that if he wins, we're going to have the Sentinel program. They're going to be chasing, instead of X-Men, there's going to be Mex-Men.
The Mex-Men.
Yeah. Like, it's a fact. So, yeah, it definitely holds up.
More now than ever.
Yeah.
Because politics, certain thing happened in Paris.
Yes.
That happened, and now we have certain refugees that are coming into our country that a certain presidential candidate wants a registration program for them.
Yeah.
It's if this still holds up today. So next week's issue number 4 of the Neon Nerds podcast, we're going to talk about the greatest animated series of both Marvel and DC, with Batman the Animated Series, who Kevin Conroy, for all you youngins out there listening to this, your Batman Arkham video games, he's the voice of Batman. Mark Hamill, for all you youngins out there, who is Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, the original Star Wars, and you will see him in The Force Awakens, no doubt, coming out in a few weeks. He's the voice of the Joker. More people, I think, know him more. Before The Force Awakens, all the hype, more people knew him as the Joker.
Yeah, definitely. Because he's the Joker in the Arkham games.
In the Arkham games, in the cartoon series, that's Mark Hamill. And now they recently retired from the roles, and they're coming back for one more stint as it, because Kevin Conroy, after the video games, said that he was done, and Mark Hamill felt in the one game in which kind of wrote off the Joker. No spoilers to those who haven't played the Arkham games.
Yeah.
He said that was a fitting end to his role as the Joker. Well, they announced Batman: The Killing Joke is going to be animated. It's going to be rated R.
Oh.
They're both coming back. They both met Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill. Let's get they're coming back to do that one final story as a final send off together.
Yeah, I think we've all earned that.
So we're going to go over your childhood, which it was the animated series of Batman, the animated series of the X-Men, where guitar solos made. I mean, you had either Danny Elfman soundtrack for Batman, or you just had an awesome guitar solo in your.
Well, we're just gonna recap. We're gonna watch the pilot and then recap that.
Yeah, we're gonna. The pilot for the X-Men is 2, Night of the Sentinels Part 1, Night of the Sentinels.
Yeah, we can watch
Part
both.
2, which we're watching both. I don't think Batman was of just one.
Just one.
You want to watch 2 episodes of Batman so we can do
either or,
We'll watch the second one. We'll do a full hour.
All right.
So fire up.
So follow along.
Follow along. You can fire up. I'll have a notepad to write down my notes.
Write down notes.
We're gonna write down notes. We're gonna make it the best. This is a good time for you to sit down and watch it, because you can go on YouTube now and even search for these, because they're up on YouTube. But we suggest you go get the DVDs, because they're
not expensive.
They're not expensive. And you want to talk, these is some of the best animation work you're going to get. It was when Warner Brothers was full blown.
Yeah.
You had Saturday morning cartoons where you had people fighting to create better cartoons just to get on there. That's why I feel bad for you kids today.
Yeah, they do not make cartoons like they used to.
If I said X-Men cartoon series and you said Evolution, then I'm sorry, you didn't see the good one. Just like if you said Batman cartoon.
Oh yeah.
And you get.
But does Beware the Batman even still on?
Batman?
I couldn't even do it.
No. If you got Beware the Batman, I am so sorry. This is why you need to owe it to yourself. Buy the Batman DVDs, watch them on YouTube. Go buy the X-Men DVDs, watch them on YouTube. So that next week is going to be full of your Saturday morning goodness. I'm sure Crunch and Munch will be made. Pizza. We're going to order Pizza Hut. I'm going to order Pizza Hut, and I'll bring over a box of Crunch and Munch. And we're going to enjoy a little watching of the series, and we'll take notes, and we'll talk about that for next episode.
Sounds good to me. Is there anything else we have to plug? We already plugged the Instagram. Oh, do we have an email account?
Oh yeah, if you have any suggestions, storylines, anything you would want us to talk about, something you remember from the 90s,
or if you're upset, if you're Jason Serafino and you're upset, you
want to email us at neonnerdspodcast@gmail.com.
But please, if you're upset about Iron Man, we don't want to hear it.
You burnt. So this is thank you for listening. I'm Phil McNulty.
And I'm Ryan Brady. Neon Nerds out.